Friends, how innovative can our budgets be? Can the national budget be innovatively disruptive? Can it sway the voters to the ruling parties irrevocably? Can it be the X factor that the ruling parties look for? These and some more of the questions I will address in this Saturday's episode. Can budgets completely abolish income tax? Currently, a fourth of the central government's revenue accrues due to personal income tax collection. In fact, income tax returns are the most imaginative fiction that has ever been written. Are there alternative ways of raising resources apart from IT to fill the breach? Will that breach the defenses of the ruling parties if implemented? About 50% of government revenue is due to direct taxes, and the rest is by indirect taxation such as GST and excise duties. GST accounts for about 30%, corporate tax for another 28%, income tax accounts for 26%, and excise for 11%, and customs for the 3% that remains. Subramaniam Swamy, an intelligent economist and member of parliament, has this to say to the government. The only advice I can give this government is to take some steps that will raise the morale of the consumer and the investor. That means income tax abolition and reducing the annual interest rate to 9% or so is required. Approximately 8 crore people, or about 5% of the 1.4 billion, the population that we have, file their returns every year. It, however, does not tell the entire story. For rest of the people, including the 8 crores, pay GST or indirect taxes on everything they buy through the organized markets. Even as 40% of the population is either employed or looking for work, only about 3% have an annual salary which exceeds 5 lakhs. Now, those with less than 5 lakhs are exempted from the tax net. Further, 50% of the population is engaged in agriculture, where again several services are exempted from the tax net. Some premises for people to not pay income tax and hold wealth is their belief that only a few are burdened with paying taxes. Lack of conviction in the tax system that we have, cynicism towards the government schemes, and a belief that they are unreasonably high. Now, these are all reasons for not paying tax. Probably evading tax makes a better financial sense for them. It can't be done anymore with most of the digital systems in place. The National Council for Applied Economic Research, NCAER, reports that the illicit wealth in the country amounts to anywhere between $400 to $500 billion, massive, almost 15% of the GDP. India is also witnessing asset price inflation. Housing prices, as well as other commodities such as gold, silver, they have all risen many times over. People aim to escape the IT net by investing money in these assets, gold, silver, and so on, where prices are already highly inflated. Therefore, abolishing income tax has some advantages. There is a premise and there is a promise. If the premise was to hold, The promise is that such illegitimate money would be back in circulation. Such money diverted to new projects and more development work would help redistribute the illegitimate wealth within more number of people. While more money in the hands of people results in expansion of the economy due to higher spending, how sustainable it will be in the long run is a matter for research. Given that uncertainties will be difficult to factor, in such a methodology. Lowering taxes could increase revenues is logically correct. If tax rates are high enough, then people will go to such lengths to avoid them that cutting taxes can increase revenues. However, income tax rates are already so high now that assuming cutting them would raise revenues is a complete fallacy. If the abolition of personal tax or income tax were to be done, the government would lose about a fourth of its revenue with immediate effect. Besides this, the fiscal deficit that was 9.3% of the GDP last year would escalate further. Hence, even as we debate abolition of income tax, personal tax, we must also explore methods that make good the losses for the government. Direct taxes help governments all over the world to fund welfare programs for the poor and in building infrastructure, including public works, healthcare schemes, science, research, defense, law enforcement, and general public utility programs such as electricity, water, and waste control. No government would risk holding up welfare programs for the poor by engineering a crisis of shortfall in revenue. Political exigencies must be tempered with nose to the ground, so realize the ground reality. Yet there are ways to counter shortfalls in revenue, and they must be found, especially if there is a value proposition in the form of political gains. For one, GST rates could be raised. Excise on certain goods and products could be raised, as was done during the pandemic. An inheritance tax or a tax on people who inherit their ancestral properties, savings, can be levied in varying slabs. Even levying taxes on expenditure and bank transactions instead of income could be a good idea. Reducing government compliance costs and laying greater emphasis on productive jobs is a win-win. But everything has its flip side, and one must assess the flip side as well. The old-fashioned fiscal concept that income tax rates must be elevated in order to provide the state with more income is not a viable proposition anymore. Similarly, inducing liquidity by reducing TDS, TCS liability may not be useful either. Surely the idea of doing away with income tax has arrived. The income tax created more criminals than any other single act of the government. History bears that out. Friends, Fred Allen, an American comedian, had once said, an income tax form is like a laundry list. Either way you lose your shirt. We all can be as innovative as we can. No income tax is a major policy change if implemented. However, as I said in this narrative, both sides must be adequately addressed. With that, let me close this episode. Until we meet the next Saturday, thank you, Dhanyavad, and Namaskar.